So let me stream on Discord for you guys too. Get everyone in here.
Okay.
Alright, everyone see this?
I can see it, yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. I think one thing that we have to go over as a team is kind of the laning mechanics that we use. I see a lot of people struggling to kind of pull at the correct time, or last hitting under tower seems to be a really big issue. And I think this session in particular, we're going to focus on a couple of tricks to make those things easier. Like, for example, when mid lane gets pushed in underneath this tier 1 tower, you start having the last hit. If it's contested, obviously it's going to get a little bit more difficult, and that's something you just have to do based on feel. But uncontested CS underneath the tower has some very easy tricks to make it easy. So we're going to be going over that later on in this session. And besides that, it's just some really, really early game stuff that I noticed we're not doing that you really need to be in these early levels, because it makes a huge difference on the outcome of your lane. So let's just skip forward into the part where it actually starts. Alright, so right around... we're going to do top lane first. So right around 50 seconds... See this range creep right here? This is probably the most important range creep that you're going to have in the entire game. And the reason is because this one and this one over here are what gets you your early level 2 in these side lanes. So, what do you not want to have happen to these range creeps?
Get them denied.
Correct. And what is the only way to guarantee that they won't get denied? Since everyone's base damage at this time is pretty similar, and you don't want to leave it up to just mechanical differences in right-click ability. What can you do to secure these?
Use a spell on it.
There we go. Puck has Illusory Orb, Slardar maybe at level 2 Slithering Crush, things like that. You just need to be making sure that these early range creeps, the melee ones a little bit less important, those you can contest with right clicks, I'm not too bothered. Maybe if it's convenient to get harass off on like an enemy and get 1 or 2 CS at the same time, you can go for it. But these early range creeps should be your first priority. It's the first objective, basically, in this game. And you want to make sure you secure that last hit. So using spells on these things is the way to do it, and it's extremely important. So, alright, So remember I was saying to play in the tree line. Alright, well, Dev, why do you play in the tree line? It's pretty simple. When you're here, it makes right-clicking from this support or this carry's position very, very difficult if you play properly. Back here. See, 1 free right-click, 2 free right-click. And he tried to, but he canceled it. That's 4. He got 4 right-clicks off on the Lich, and he's now 66% HP for free. This is totally free, and this is the importance of playing in the tree line, getting off efficient trades and things like that. This is correct play. This is how you trade efficiently against someone. What's inefficient, and I think you'll see it in the other game a little bit, is just walking into a lane and swapping hits with the support, or kind of like allowing them to get into a position where they can pressure you out. Because if you're playing a puck or something with mobility, you can always just sit in these tree lines, basically, and harass for free. If you are in a kill lane, or if the enemy has a kill lane on you, you need to position a little bit more conservatively. Maybe playing in these trees where you can juke around easier, or playing further back, waiting until they hit the creep wave, and then playing from the maximum range you can attack from, to not draw creep aggro, to not be out of position, just things like that, but you need to keep it in mind. However, when you're on these mobile heroes, Batrider is another really good one to consider. This guy's playing really badly right now. If he actually wanted to play really well, he'd go over into this tree line over here and start using napalm from the sideline, basically, so that you don't get wand charges. Remember, you can use as many skills as you want if you're out of vision, and you'll never get any stick charges. This guy isn't doing that because he's lazy or he doesn't know how to do it. So playing in the tree line is very, very important in the early levels, just as much as using skills to secure the range creeps, basically. And I want to see you guys doing that more often. Supports, this is kind of the important way to position yourself. Either getting into the tree line, because A, it doesn't draw aggro from the creeps, so you're not tanking all that extra damage. B, it makes it very difficult for them to reciprocate damage back onto you. So playing inside the tree lines, getting kind of weird little angles that make things difficult for them is very, very important. It should be the first consideration on supports. Since you're not a farming carry, you don't have to worry about being on the lane or within range of the lane. You could be playing up here if it's a super aggressive lane and you're trying to zone them out. Or you could be playing in these trees, maybe cut one on the way in to make an easy escape if it's a more dangerous lane. So just things to consider early on. I think that's pretty much it for now. But yeah, basically just getting free damage is the idea behind this. Okay, so we're going to fast forward a little bit. I think this is pretty good. Oh, another thing. In this offlane, if you're not playing like a super greedy support, like maybe a Vengeful or something like that, but if you're not playing a support that really needs levels, you should always let your core, or the more important hero to have levels on, get free experience under tower like this. There's no reason for you to like walk back down here and soak up XP when, maybe it's important for the puck actually this particular matchup, but if like the Drow Ranger Venge lane, when the lane gets pushed onto the tower and Vengeful has level 3, there's no reason for you to soak up that XP and delay the Drow Ranger's level 6 even more and more. Level 6 is much more important on Drow Ranger than early level 4 and 5 on Vengeful. So giving free experience to your core is really, really important. You, as a support player, you got to try and make use of as little as possible early on. You got to have the most impact with the littlest amount of greed, essentially. Vengeful's awesome because she takes advantage of that with essentially value points in every single skill, right? A lot of supports you can't do that with. Puck is one of those kind of greedier supports where it's like, alright, you don't have points in Waning Rift, you're not getting close to your ultimate, then it feels really bad because it's hard to pressure. But just take that into consideration. Always be thinking, what's the most important hero to have levels on? And if it isn't equal or it isn't you, there's no reason to soak up XP like this here. I'm not saying you did it right now. I don't believe you did, which is fine. Oh, no, you did. But it's just something to consider. Yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah, absolutely. If you're on a puck, sure. No problem. It's the offlane. Yep. Yeah. No, that's fine, and it's totally acceptable for you to. Yeah. There's no issue with it. It's just something that you should keep in mind for later. Like I saw Zoro was in the second game. It's a little bit more apparent, but it's just sometimes you guys really struggle to find what the impact you should be having is, especially in these early lanes. And a lot of the times it's stacking or warding or making a rotation rather than just sitting in the lane. Even though this particular lane, I think you got away with it because you were dominating it so hard, and that's good. We'll go over a few more things to really help you distinguish when it's good to be in the lane and when it's just kind of leeching or soaking XP. But we'll go over that once we start doing bottom. So let's see. Scooting forward just a little bit here. So one important thing that I saw you weren't doing in this top lane was, even though you had vision of this camp up here and of the Lich doing this, this was never contested, which, you're just giving them free experience in gold, or you're letting them take away experience in gold, rather, from you. Which, it's whatever, but it's just something you should be doing. Either ward this camp with a sentry ward earlier on, or contest it. There's just really no reason not to. I think we actually go and kill... No, it's important for the Slardar to be farming whatever's left in this lane, but there's no reason for you to just be sitting here when a one creep died and Lich gets all these jungle camps, basically. Like, I get you're pulling it, but you should have contested it first rather than sitting still and then pulled the camp into this lane afterwards if you really wanted to still do that. Otherwise, I don't even think you needed to pull it, really. in this particular situation. I think contesting this around the 5-minute bounty rune and then coming down for this would have been a little bit more efficient. Because the lane was going to push anyways. He single pulled it, right? And you had vision of him single pulling it. So you knew the lane was going to push. Contesting it, blowing up these creeps would have made it happen a lot faster. And then you would have been in a better position to go for the 5-minute runes rather than pulling this lane into it, which didn't actually do anything anyways, right? So just something to think about. Let's rewind just a little bit. Tunnel vision. You always want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on everything in your immediate area, right? In this particular situation, you kind of tunnel visioned on the Lifestealer, who isn't necessarily a kill right now, and you just completely ignored the half HP Lich that was right next to you. So you always got to kind of keep aware of your surroundings in these situations. Couriers are the lifeblood. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, Lifestealer, Courier, they're both very enticing options, but it's like, had you been able to use both your spells on the Lich, I'm pretty sure he dies, and then this isn't really an issue for the Slardar, right? So it's just little tiny decisions. Maybe instead of going for the Courier, you kill the Lich, and then the Courier was out of position. I think you might have been able to get it anyways, but then maybe Slardar doesn't die here in this position. If you were... I mean, look at this. He's got 170 HP. If you had used both your spells on him, he'd be super dead. But just a kind of little tiny misplays, like not seeing what's going on next to you, that can cost you lanes. And it hurts. Like, this was totally avoidable. But you just got to remember to kind of prioritize the targets that you can blow up, right? 100 to 0 should be your first priority in every single lane. You want to know what heroes can I 100 to 0, how can I do it, and can I keep doing it? That should always be your first priority. If you can't do that, then you get into the next ones. But Lich in that situation was your kill. So just, again, make sure that you're prioritizing correctly in these lanes. Alright, so 7:15. Going forward just a little bit. I think right here. Yeah. So I wanted to commend you for this. I really like this. You definitely learned your lesson from that last game that we played. Remember the Ricky and his lane partner getting away with like 0 HP because you initiated with the orb? I really like that you're finally starting to use Waning Rift first, going on these heroes with it, and then using the orb to kind of chase them or catch up. Perfect. It's great usage of the spells, and you get a double kill because of it. It's very nice. I also like the body blocking. I saw you do it a couple of times. Just really well played, very clean. That's what you should be doing. It's very nice. So let's see, what else? So yeah, in this particular situation with the puck, I don't think it's too much of an issue because you want to get your level 6 just as much as he does. But if you were playing a less greedy support, maybe a Snapfire, for example, who doesn't necessarily need that 6, this play right here should not happen. You should just be letting him get his early level 6 so that he can dominate this Lifestealer. But that's just for future reference. Again, not necessarily this particular game. So, I think this is fine. But besides that, let's see. I wasn't a huge fan of this build, maxing Illusory Orb, especially on when you're not playing like mid-puck, for example, and you're using Illusory Orb to like spam out the wave and get last hits on the creep without being out of position. I don't think maxing it is as important. It doesn't scale as well as Waning Rift. Like, the cooldowns are the same, but the mana cost goes up twice as much as Waning Rift. The damage is exactly the same, but then the real benefit to maxing Rift is the duration on the silence. You almost doubled it by kind of maxing that out first instead of the Illusory Orb. And you can kind of see it does give you kills where you shouldn't have gotten it before. And it's also very important against heroes that have a lot of escape mechanisms or save or dispels or things basically that if you delay, it's a death on them. Things like Rage, for example, or this Firefly or Quap's Blink or Lich Armor or Pangolier Swashbuckle. All of these skills really suffer from being silenced early game, especially early game. So I don't think you did as much with maxing Illusory Orb as you did with if you could have if you had maxed Waning Rift. So okay, just a misclick. That's fun. But honestly, I would have liked to just see the value point in Illusory Orb and then just straight up maxing Waning Rift. Because I think it's better in this particular situation. But anyways, one thing that you did really well was rotating immediately as soon as you got Dream Coil. That's pretty much what gives you kill potential on like everyone this game, besides maybe the Nakes. So rotating out of this lane was really important, and I think you did it really well. You died later on, I believe. Yeah, but then as soon as you come back, you get level 6 in the top lane and then go mid. So that's the end of the laning phase for top lane. Now let's rewind and go over mid, which was a little bit rough, but I hope that we can understand why it was particularly rough.
Sorry, would we be able to do bot first?
Oh, Adam still isn't here? Sorry, what did you say?
Yeah. I said, could we do bot first?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah. Just to maximize the chances.
Yeah. I got you. Alright, so let's see. Bottom lane. Actually, bottom lane in this particular game did fantastic, I think. There's just a couple of tiny things that could be changed. Like, for example...
I missed that pull.
A little bit more efficient use of time, positioning, a couple of other things. Like, for example, okay, if you see a Bat Rider... Lincoln, if you see a Bat Rider, alright, first skill is always going to be Sticky Napalm. So, Magic Stick first on Venge, fantastic. The Mango, totally unnecessary. I think you really should have prioritized getting a stick first in this particular lane. Because you'll see, the Vengeful gets like 10 stacks over and over and over again. He had more of the region than he knew what to do with. Just getting 10 stacks on that wand gives you way more than one mango. So maybe like sell this and an Iron Branch, or even just come to lane with like a Tango and a Salve or something, and then have your basic stat items. But level 1 or minute 0, it's so important to have that stick against this Bat Rider lane because it makes it so much easier and it gives you more region than anything else you could have gone for. It can also, in higher tier kind of matchups where this Bat Rider might be better, it also encourages him to play a lot more defensively, so he's not always in your face and kind of harassing you at all. Just the level 1 stick is always going to be good against Bat Rider. You don't have to worry so much about regen in this particular lane. And so I would have liked to see that particular early game build different. Alright, fast forward just a bit to 140. I think this is super cool that you guys made this play, and a lot of people tend to miss this. But level 2. So soon as this range creep dies, you guys are going to be level 2, and they won't, right? So right now, who is much stronger? And it's not the Bat Rider and the Pango with 0 HP, I'll tell you that. So what do you guys do about it? You use that to pressure out the lane, basically. And I really like to see it. Just constantly right-clicking them, going on them, getting kills. They're level 1, you're level 2. They can't do anything. This is a perfect example of how to pressure them. And that's a big misplay on him, but... yeah. Just textbook example of getting an early level 2 and pressuring the lane. Fantastic. Job well done. That's phenomenal. So one thing I noticed afterwards, though... I mean, you guys stomped this lane. There's no question about it. But quite frankly, you should have. They were a lot lower ranked than you, and they made some really questionable misplays. But Venge kind of suffered from what do I do in this lane syndrome. It's going really well for you guys, but a lot of this is it kind of felt to me like you were just sitting in the lane, leeching experience, but waiting for something to happen. Um, and this lane is completely won later on. Like, there's nothing that Pango and Batrider can do to this Clinks. And so you really got to ask yourself, where can I be best used? And how can I know where to be? The answer to that I found in a lot of my lanes is putting down like an early lane ward. Because if the Clinks is able to harass both of these guys out of lane and he doesn't need your help, then the most efficient place to be is probably going to be, I think in this particular, since you can't really gank mid, you're probably going to want to be stacking for the OD or the Clinks or anyone else. Using Wave of Terror to get like some double stacks off, stuff like that, rather than sitting in this lane. But if these two are in it, you want to be in this lane getting kills on them, right? So the best thing to do in this particular situation is get like a deep lane ward, either back here in this particular corner or like on this high ground or something, just so that you can see exactly when it is that they're coming back to the lane. Clinks can see it too, so he won't get caught out by surprise. And then you are free to pull and do things. Unfortunately, kind of the downside to staying in this lane is this is a super easy to find ward. And do you know why?
It's blocking the pole camp, yeah.
Yep. So if you had pulled this one time, or if this had gotten cleared or anything, really, you would have known that there was a ward there, and that's an easy deward for you. That's experience, that's gold in your pocket, and now you're actually doing things rather than just kind of moving back and forth, getting and waiting for something to happen. So that's important. Always remember, make use of these pull camps if you're in a winning lane, because they're going to have a really hard time contesting it. And then always be on the lookout for, how can I do my job? Yeah, go ahead, Lincoln. Yeah, I don't. If they're winning the lane really hard, shouldn't they? Should they have the option to call me to rotate for skills? No, I don't think. No. I think it's. See, the issue is, in this particular lane, Batrider, especially against Clinks, I think we mentioned this in game. It felt really hard with the turn radius, right, on Clinks, because it's super slow when you get sticky napalmed.
Yeah.
Because of that,
I didn't realize, but yeah.
Because of that, the downside to this lane, Venge does have to stay bottom. That's super important, because these guys can 2v1 the Clings if Venge isn't there. So if they see that you're putting pressure on top against a lifestealer who, quite frankly, probably shouldn't die in this particular lane, and Lich, especially with Lich, that's a super defensive lane. You're not really threatening kills if you rotate. They can threaten kills on the Clinks, though. These two versus him. So no, I think you should just have stayed in your lane. There's not a whole lot you can do with your current kit. They're very mobile heroes and hard to really get on top of and trade hits with. And mid lane is just ungankable, right? I mean, just the blink makes it impossible to kill her. So no, I think you did fine staying here until level 6 and then rotating. That's perfectly acceptable. But Vengeful needed to be a little bit more active, getting these camps stacked, using Wave of Terror to do that, getting a ward down in the lane so that you can kind of have more control over it, dewarding, taking away their control, etc. So, like, early ward should probably come out in this situation. When you're dominating... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
When you're saying stack camps, do I want to stack those camps right there against the Batrider? Because my concern would be Bat takes that really easily over Clink's Venge. Like,
yeah, no,
that just kind of napalms and fireflies.
True.
It's better to rotate back into the.
I would say yes. I would say yes. If you're comfortable now. See, the thing is, you just have to know when to do that, though. Yeah, you're right. I think against a Batrider in particular, and even Pangolier, they take the camps much easier than you do, so it would probably be better to stack, like, maybe these three. You'd kind of have a difficult time taking Ancients, so probably you'd want to look to try and double or triple stack these three, if possible. So, Now, to do that, though, you have to make sure that your first priority is safe, right? You got to make sure that the lane is secured for the Clinks. Now, how do you do that? I think making sure that you have a lane ward so that you know when the other two offlaners are coming back, so you know when to actually be in the lane, and that'll give you a little bit firmer of a grasp of, okay, when is it okay to leave? When is it okay to make a rotation for something, or do things? Now, the small camp in particular, I think you should feel free to stack. It's not as easy for the Batrider to contest it without going super deep, and you should be using the small camp to kind of pull creep waves, deny that experience, and everything like that, right? Because the creeps will kill them just fine. You don't really need the Clinks or the OD or anyone else for that. Hard camp, though, yes, I think you're right. It would be a little bit more easy for the Batrider to A, contest that, and B, take it. So I think maybe at the very least focus on stacking the small camp. I know you missed it a couple of times. It's whatever, but that's what you should be worrying about. And then getting a lane ward down to control this a little bit more, have vision of these two offlaners, know when you should be there when they start coming, and when you should go and maybe consider stacking, or I don't know, maybe getting like some deeper vision, or potentially ganking the Quap. Maybe you just want to harass her, give your mid lane a little bit easier of a time. But really, I think your main concern should be securing this lane and getting some pulls off either on the little camps or rotating over here if the lane is completely free and Clinks doesn't need you anymore. So anyway, sorry, we spent a lot of time on that. Let's get on with it. So I think what ended up getting put down later on is like a ward over here. And that's okay in this particular situation. But, I mean, I understand you need... I think I see the rationale for it. You're most worried about the Quap rotating in. But there's a lot better positions to kind of accomplish that, what you were trying to go for. Number one would have been a rune ward. Because if you have a ward over here, you can see which rune that Quap's getting in particular and adjust your play accordingly. With this ward, you couldn't see that the Quap picked up an Invis rune over here later on. So that was kind of difficult. Now, the other option, I would think, is either this high ground over here to see if she's TPing into this tier 1 tower, or a lane ward in this particular corner over here. Doesn't have to be in those exact positions. This one over by the purple flowers with the little brazier. It doesn't have to be in those exact positions. You can get creative with them again because they're pretty common spots and they more than likely will be dewarded eventually. But placing the ward, I think it was over here later on. Let's fast forward. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about in this lane because you guys did so well in it. Yeah, here's the wards coming out finally. So it should be... yeah. Placing this ward over here doesn't do any of those jobs as well as you would have wished, right? It doesn't scout out the rune for rotations. It doesn't see the T1 tower. You're just kind of hoping that she walks in blindly and tries to catch you guys. And honestly, what should have happened is they should have seen you plant that ward anyways. And this would have gotten dewarded if they were a good team. But I don't think it does. So just consider what it is that you need from your early wards a little bit more. Securing the lane, maybe it's an aggressive ward up here. Defensive rotations from the mid laner, the enemy mid laner, maybe it's a rune ward. Those would be my three kind of go-to spots in this particular situation. So, okay, last little thing. You did this a couple of times. I don't think that the extra point in Vengeance Aura is really what you should go for early. Because it's just, I think it's been nerfed too hard now to get it until later. The 3 stats doesn't make a huge difference, and the scaling just is really bad on more levels of it. It goes from 50 attack range to 75, which is a 50% upgrade. You just get 25 extra attack range for every single level rather than the original level 1 that's 50. Again, 3 stats per level instead of the original 4. And illusion damage really doesn't matter at all early game. It matters more late game. But like 70 to 80 is nothing. So I think Wave of Terror, especially in these particular lanes where you want to get off as many right clicks as you can, and the physical damage from searing arrows is much more important. It lowers the cooldown, it gives you more damage, and the armor reduction is always very, very nice to have in these hard right-clicking lanes. Drow, Clinks, etc. Magic Missile isn't so important. It really doesn't do a whole lot. Maybe in lanes where it's like you really feel like you need the extra lockdown, you get like another point in it at most. But like, I think the build really right now, after all the nerfs to Vengeance Aura, is like maxing Wave of Terror and then going for more points in Vengeance Aura. This was a cool TP out. That was a really good understanding from you. I like that a lot. Just not giving up any kills because of that. But yeah, just kind of consider the skill build. It used to be, before it was like just totally destroyed, that you could get away with maxing this, because I mean, an extra 30 every single level on the attack range is decent, and I think that was even the post-nerfed one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just said Techie's mid carry is valid.
Okay. But, so yeah, just reconsider the skill build a little bit. In these hard right-clicking lanes, I think the extra armor reduction, it's the difference between essentially a Desolator and a Blightstone almost. And then the extra damage is just really nice as well. And the cooldown reduction, too. Going from 16 to 10 makes such a huge difference, because now you can just spam it out constantly, right? The duration is... What is the duration? 8 seconds. So you have almost a 100% uptime instead of a 50% uptime once you max it out. And I think that's much more important in this particular lane, because Clinks would start hitting like an absolute truck. He's already hitting hard and getting kills, but in lanes with like maybe, I don't know, more armor, or where they can actually trade against you, I think maxing the Wave of Terror is just going to feel so much better for you. So just something to consider now that passive's been nerfed so much. As far as the Clinks goes, the only thing that I really thought that you could improve on is using the Soul Ring a little bit more, especially with Death Pact, because once it starts to expire, you gain back all of your HP anyways. It just takes from the kind of excess. So I wanted to talk about, particularly for Clinks, a couple of efficiency things. You remember I talked about the Naga Siren, how there's like some efficiency plays with power treads. There's some for Clinks too, especially when you go Soul Ring. And remind me after this game is done, and I'll show you in a demo lobby. It'll be a lot easier than just saying what it is. But yeah, conserving your mana in this particular lane is much more important, because you'll regen your HP so quickly with Death Pact and just the natural regen that you have. So try to stay more kind of mana heavy than HP heavy, because there's no way in hell they're bursting down 1300 HP on a Bat Rider and Pango, right? So you can afford a little bit of extra HP there. That was the only little nitpicky thing, I think. Alright, can we move on to the mid lane now? Is Adam here?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're just.
He should be. He's muted, but
Okay,
he
okay.
just said something. Yeah.
Alright, cool. Alright, so now we'll move on to the mid lane, which, I mean, this is a really rough matchup, Quap versus OD, but I think I found a couple of things that might make it a little bit easier. So let's rewind it. Alright, let's scroll back up to my mid lane notes. Okay, so not a whole lot. I mean, just getting a little bit better at timing the dodging. This might have been kind of a new thing for you. I'm not sure if you've played this lane a whole lot before. But yeah, just getting a little bit better at dodging those things. It's difficult. It really is, especially as you get higher, because really good Quaps will like be able to tell if you're on time as far as dodging the Shadow Strike goes, and so they'll start to like psych you out maybe. And the thing is, like, when she gets close like that, you need to use it as she's casting the animation, basically, if you want to time it right. So that's really difficult. But the biggest thing that I saw came a little bit later. Once this tango expires, you want to be like right here. You want to use another tango immediately. There's no reason to not have that extra regen, and I think it took a while for you to actually use it. But against Quap, someone who has constant harass with that Shadow Strike, you want to make sure that you're never in a position where she can blink on you and kill you. And actually, funnily enough, and this will just highlight how Immortal players are not perfect, and you can and will be able to take advantage of them because they miss their timings and they miss their times to pressure just as much as you do. Yeah, except for me, of course, right. I'm perfect. There's no question about that. There were a couple of times in this particular lane, Quap could have blinked on you and killed you, no questions asked. Like, you were dead to rights. But he doesn't because I don't know if he just doesn't play the matchup or if he just doesn't understand it very well. But, I mean, this is not as impossible a lane when this Quap plays as badly as she does. Like, see right here, you're down to like half HP. You should have been regenning up for the last 20 seconds, and I think that would have made a big difference as far as your ability to sit in lane and not just get harassed out. So, using regen immediately is super important in this lane. And then right around 2 minutes, scout the runes. Don't forget to scout the runes. Very, very important. Because, like, in this particular situation, it's really difficult to contest against the Quap with that Blink Shadow Strike. Maybe you die here, but maybe if, like, you were positioned, like, to the left of this range creep, get off the Astral and run for the Arcane Rune, maybe you're okay. Maybe you get away with it. I think it also would have depended on how much regen you had, because you needed to be like 75% HP in order to contest this rune. But it makes a big difference when you're getting those things instead of the Quap. So just remember around that 2 minute mark, always scout the runes. Didn't see you do it this game, and I would have liked to, because it would have helped you just a little bit. So yeah, so this was the first example of if a good Quap was playing this hero and knew the timings, you're dead. Right here. No questions asked. You don't have anything. You don't have a salve, you don't have your Astral. She blinks on you, uses Shadow Strike, trades like 1 or 2 hits, you're dead. But she didn't. And maybe it was the kindness of her heart, and maybe she just didn't really know the matchup, but you're 100% dead here if she just blinks on you and auto-attacks you like twice. Also, when you Astral her right here, this was another thing. Using regen right away. You could have just dropped down an Iron Branch and popped a Tango, and you would have been fine, I think. You would not have died. But you did it like 7 or 8 seconds too late. And, oh man, it's just barely. Just barely. I think it's like, what's the combat log on this? God, that sucks so bad. That just hurts, right? Because you used it too. Here we go. It'll be right here. 37! It was a difference of 5 HP. And had you just eaten a Tango a second earlier, you would have been fine. So, just, again, highlighting the importance of, in these high kill lanes, or these lanes where you're feeling pressured constantly, use your regen as soon as you can. Because it will make a difference. It won't give up these early kills. Alright, let's see. 330. Oh, yeah. Alright, this is a little thing about using skills correctly. If you get this off on her, this Astral, you've got 4 seconds to make a move. What's your best move that you can do right now in this particular instance? Can you tell me? What can you think of?
I mean, go for the range creep possibly, but I was worried about taking a shit ton of damage on the way back.
Yeah.
Other than that,
but I mean,
going for the deny and backing out.
again, you have got 4 seconds. You've got like an attack animation of 1.42. So if you immediately banish her and walked up, hit it twice, that's an extra second that you have, 1/1000, to get back to here. So if you knew what you were kind of going for and did it, I think this isn't an issue. If you don't know and you kind of hesitate and go back and forth and aren't sure what to do,
I mean, I was Shadow Strike too. I was 230
yeah,
movement
right,
speed.
right. And so it's difficult to make that decision. But honestly, I think you would have been fine. But hitting that range creep, even if you do it before, just giving it a couple of whacks or pulling it down onto your low ground, it makes a big difference because of your early levels. Basically, all these range creeps are like 10 times as important as they are 30 minutes into the game. So just making sure you secure them with your skills in any way possible should always be a priority. Now, I understand at this point it's really, really hard to kind of stay in the lane, and so you went and jungled later on. But don't forget to use your Essence Flux, this one right here, to slow them because you took a lot of unnecessary damage. And right here, okay, so she precasted that on you when you're on high ground. These creeps don't have vision of it. This tower doesn't have vision of over here. What does that tell you? If she's attacking you on your high ground right now.
And yeah, there's vision.
There's
But
vision.
She's had that for a while.
Right. But you should now know at this point, without a doubt, that she has vision of this ward, right? And so at this point, I would like to see you either call out to a support, hey, I need a D ward, or I need someone to come here and take care of that, or buy it yourself. Because, I mean, again, free money. It's kind of difficult to get them now that you can't tangle them, especially on like OD against Quap, where it's like if you're out of position, you die. But it's just something to keep in mind. She's definitely got vision over here now. You know that, for sure. This is another spot, I think, where it's like, man, it's just hard to stay in lane against her at this point. Yeah, I think this was another kill potential too. Yeah, if she had actually gone on you. Because you're down to 150 HP, that's like 3 hits, and she has a haste rune. Again, you should have died there, 100%. She has a haste rune. She can dive you under tower if she wants to or not. The only reason you didn't was because she was feeling mercy, I guess. But yeah. So yeah, Astral Essence Flux, that'll prevent a lot of damage. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The next little thing, comes to about 6 minutes, I believe, when you go back to the lane. You just, I mean, I feel like it's pretty obvious in retrospect, but you can't come back to this mid lane when you're level 4 and she's level 6, right? It's just a free kill for her as soon as you show. Because she's got a Sonic Wave now, and it's like, you can't do anything. So, I don't know. Your other options would have been like just keep jungling or stacking or... Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Like, you just can't
I
be
was thinking
here.
about that. It's just painful to jungle before fire.
I know. It's definitely not optimal. But it's like, the thing about it is, Quap's going to want to get kills, right? A Quap with Sonic Wave off of cooldown is an unhappy Quap early on. She's going to want to rotate for kills. So, my thoughts in this particular lane is if you're not here to give her a kill, she's going to go looking for it eventually. Maybe she pressures the tower, maybe she doesn't. But your other option is jungle until she rotates, and then just take over the lane, nuke it out as quickly as possible, and then go back into the jungle, right? Unfortunately, it's just a very difficult lane. But the thing about difficult lanes is you got to think about how to play around them. Going back to her at a 2-level disadvantage is not the way to play around it. So let's see. Yeah, 730. Again, just remember to use Essence Flux to kite the creeps a little bit easier when you're jungling. Take a lot less damage that way. Promise you. And then 1023 is when I wanted to talk about last hitting under tower. Let's skip forward a little bit. Yeah, because I didn't see you use it at all, actually. And you took a lot of damage because of that. So yeah, you see the Quap, perfect. Just hit the lane. nuke it out as quickly as possible. That's fine. So that basically is showing your other option, being able to lane when the Quap is rotating out. Again, it doesn't feel very good, but it is an option that you should consider rather than just going back to the lane when she's there. So, all right, early game last hitting under tower. I wanted to go over this. Where's the notes for it? Okay, so when you're in this particular situation, instead of just guessing, because 77 is pretty close. I'm not really... Let me rewind a little bit, actually, and I can tell you exactly what your auto attack damage is on these creeps. Do you hit it? Oh, no, I can't see it. Okay, so in-game, not necessarily in the replays, obviously, but in-game, every time you auto-attack, it should show your damage, your actual damage that you inflict in little white numbers. Does everyone know that?
Yeah, but doesn't that damage fluctuate?
It does.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it does.
the
So you can see that here, actually, 79 to 94. 86 is the medium point to that. So, armor is obviously going to affect that. So, let's see. On creeps, it's 10% physical resist. So, you're in actuality doing about 70 to 85 is what you're doing. 70 to 85. So, in situations like this where you're under tower, and it could be early game too, what you should be doing if you're not sure how many right clicks it takes to get that last hit is left clicking the creeps, looking at their HP, noticing, okay, 471. And then having kind of an understanding of where your base damage is. Well, that's kind of close. So if you had a Quelling Blade, for example, you could drop the Quelling Blade, hit it, pick it up again, and then hit it again for the last hit. Now it's getting to like 87. You have a really bad chance of hitting this against it. I don't even think you can. So this would be a situation where you hit it once and then hit it again. For the range creep, it's a little bit harder. They don't have any physical resist. So early game, you're almost always going to hit them once, but then the tower is always going to do 110 damage to it. So if you see this right here, I would try and block the creep wave so that they don't hit it. The creep takes 2 hits, and actually, if you can't block the creep wave, and you see this, just go for the last hit right away.
I was just hoping the creeps would take it down low enough so I could hit it.
So just a little matter of timing. But so range creeps obviously early on underneath the tower. You want to hit it twice. One time with the tower, another time to get the last hit. Melee creeps, you can left click them, look at their HP. My trick is basically anywhere from like I think it's like 5 HP over 100 to about 50-ish. A little bit more if you're a melee hero with Quelling Blade, but about 50 early on is where I can last hit it and not worry about the tower taking it. Anything above that, if I'm a melee hero with a Quelling Blade, you want to drop the Quelling Blade, hit him once. If it's like 60-ish, 70-ish, 80-ish HP, you want to hit it once without the Quelling Blade, wait for the tower to take it down, pick up your Quelling Blade, and hit it again. Very difficult. It takes a lot of getting used to, but it's something you can do. Besides that, just right-clicking the creep, understanding your base damage, and what is going to allow you to get a last hit. It's a lot of mental math that you have to get used to. It's a lot of kind of just getting a feel for it, but this is the easiest way to do it. Left-click the creep, see its HP, understand that the tower is going to do about 100-ish damage, 100-ish exactly, after the reduction on melee creeps, and 110 on range creeps. And you should be good to go. So that's just my little trick that I've found. Left click, understand where you're at. Now, okay, so now that we've gone over all of the lanes, I'd like to kind of go over the team play. So 1035, it was a little bit sloppy. You had a couple of options, right? One was dodge out the Shadow Strike. The other was tank the Shadow Strike and just Astral her on your high ground, right? It would definitely be a gamble, but she doesn't have her Sonic Wave, so I think probably you would have died, but you definitely would have gotten this kill. 100%. Kill secured. Because what you're doing if you Astral her on your high ground is you're preventing any rotations from the enemy, and then your supports now have time to walk in and get full CC on her. But what ends up happening is she kind of gets onto the high ground, and I still think this could have been a kill. You still have the level 6 on Puck. She doesn't have Blink for 9 seconds, though. So, what could have been done differently? Once this coil comes out, what do you immediately see that could have been done differently? A little bit more efficiently.
Run up to high ground.
Walk up the high ground, yes, but that leaves you pretty vulnerable to any kind of rotations, right? I think, and it's just me personally, since you've only got the level 1 in Waning Rift, it's never going to be enough time to completely make sure that she doesn't get her spells off, right? What you could have done is just right-click her for now, as she's leashed, wait for the leash to come off of cooldown, because it's a pretty long cooldown, and then time the Waning Rift so that it silences her after the fact. Because I think if you had done that, you would have had like another 2 seconds now.
Is that 8 health?
That is 8 health. You would have had an extra 2 seconds of her not having Blink, rather than it getting off the cooldown right now. If you had saved your Waning Rift for after the Dream Coil. Because she can't Blink, she can get off all of her other spells regardless, right? Doesn't matter. But she can Blink after it, if you stack those like that. So I think this was still a kill if you had done things a little bit more efficiently. Walking up high ground wasn't totally necessary. Maybe if Zoro had fully committed and just gone up there immediately. Maybe only one. I think actually only one of you really had to walk up the high ground. If Zoro committed completely to that and just stunned her and walked right up, that could have possibly been something else. But yeah, I think not stacking your abilities, saving the Waning Rift for afterwards would have made a difference there.
What really should have happened was, and I was kind of talking to Brandon about this earlier, was that it's 10:30, and I communicate a lot with Brandon in the lane, but not with Lincoln about the tome. And if as soon as 10 minutes hits and I pull out my courier to get that tome, this is an easy kill with swap.
That's true too. That's very true.
And I think I should, the tome is still in stock at this point. After this happens, I buy it. But if we had communicated that we want to do this kill, and I knew that Lincoln had 6,
Yep.
and I was still 5, and we get that kill for sure if I have swap.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I didn't even
That's
consider that.
that's
but
another option for
yeah,
us.
you're totally right. No, picking up the tome as soon as 10 minutes hits. That's another really important thing, actually. Because if anyone's under-leveled at all, then boom, now you're not. So yeah, just remember 10 minutes, outposts, bounties, and tome. So yeah, I didn't even think about that, but thank you. You're totally right. So let's see. Yeah, so maybe either Astral or don't stack all of your CC or commit or get the tome. There were a lot of little things that could have been done differently, and you would have killed the Quamp right here, for sure. So that's pretty much it. All right, so 12. Moving on to 12. Pango. Oh my god, what a Pepega.
Yeah, I don't know. I know about that guy.
Yeah, that was good. That was really cool. Alright, so 12 minutes is the next little thing. Alright, remember, careful about chaining skills, right? Because even though it didn't matter in this particular game, if you're going for the same kill on like a life stealer, for example, you don't ever want to be chaining your CC like this. Here it's fine because you just blow her up, but in this particular situation, You're gonna walk up, coil, swap, awesome. But remember, save that Waning Rift just in case, right? You want to try and get as much CC as possible. So no need for this here at all. The Vengeful can actually follow up with a stun. So I think a little bit of communication for an optimal play here is needed. The Vengeful needs to communicate, okay, I'm going to stun right after I swap her out. The Puck needs to say, okay, I'm going to silence her as soon as the stun duration is up. That will get you kills against really difficult to kill people like a Life Stealer. Even if it doesn't matter in this particular situation, it's something you guys should be doing. Communicating the series of skills. Understanding when to use yours to get the most CC and the most kind of possibility for a kill that you could. It was more about pressure. Yeah, but the 70 damage doesn't really matter so much, right? If the silence was even a little bit earlier, she might have been able to actually blink away from that stun. If the silence was done any sooner, I think. So yes, it didn't matter, and I understand you're trying to burst her down, but it wasn't needed. She's already on your high ground. You're not going to have any rotations coming in. And really securing that kill. Because you remember in the EG versus VG game, they had a great example of killing a Quap with Doom, Tiny, and a +1. They chained their skills perfectly. And that was the only reason they got the kill on the Quap, right? So I'd like to see you guys be doing that. In these really safe kills to go for, where it's on your high ground, and you have more than enough, just make sure that you're not chaining these. Because, again, 70 damage, it's a right click. It's nothing. But keeping that silence for after the stun duration is up is much more important. Because if she had maybe a bracer or two, you don't get that kill, right? If you just stun her. If she has a bracer, like, tough shit. But you do get it if you chain the Waning Rift and the Magic Missile afterwards. So, again, it didn't matter in this particular situation, but when you're up against better and better people and better players who take advantage of you much easier, you'll miss kills by doing this kind of stuff, is what I'm trying to convey. So, let's see. I think the next rotation was the 1245 one. Just really well done, understanding that the kind of weird movements from these guys is implying that you're under vision, dewarding it right away. Awesome. That's just mind games that you're playing at that point, and you're doing it well. So that was really good. 1338. Okay. So, alright. Initiating with swap. When to initiate. Because this game was a little bit difficult, right? You had a Bat Rider. Your job was to kind of use things defensively. Now, at 1338, you're going to have both charges on your swap. And you went for a Magic Missile on the Quap. When you have to remember, if you're in range for a Magic Missile, you're in range for a swap, right? And then Puck's here to follow up. So, now that you have level 3 Waning Rift, you've got swap, 2 charges of swap, I think this would have been a kill. Quap isn't really going for defensive items, but it's just something to consider playing around your team at this point. When you go for this Magic Missile, I would have really thought it would have been cool if you had just swapped her in immediately and either silenced or coiled her into like a stun afterwards, and then maybe swapped her out again even. But like right there, you were definitely in range of the Magic Missile. It's a shorter range than the swap. Could have swapped her right in. Puck would have been able to coil her, and I think this is a kill with a little bit more decisive skill usage. So just tiny things. Because if you have vision of this with this ward, and you know that there's nobody backing her up, you can feel pretty confident in going for this kill, I think. But you guys all need to be on the same page, and you kind of... Again, this is all retrospective, and so it's easy for me to point it out, but it's hard for you to actually make that play in-game. But this would be a good example of when to initiate with the swap rather than a stun. When you have the follow-up with the Puck. and you
Yeah,
understand that no one's there.
Yeah, I think I was concentrated a lot on this game on making sure I was using my swap correctly,
Right.
and there were probably a couple of times that like I definitely could have used it aggressively. That I was, concerned about
Right.
people rotating in and then being in the right position to swap out an OD or something like
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely see what you're saying. I also don't think I realized that Lincoln had coil, so probably some more attention to who's ults.
Yeah, just tiny
stuff like
attention
that.
to detail. Sacking it for the bat lasso. Oh, absolutely. No. I mean, that's her job this game, right? Saving it. Yeah. No, that's Vengeful's job. 100% is saving it for the bat lasso. Because if Bat can't get an initiation off, what do they have? They have a Quap blinking in and dying. They've got Pangolier. Like, okay, fair enough. But no, that I think you did a lot of phenomenal plays this game. It's just making tiny ones that you should always be looking out for. It's not necessarily good or bad to not go for that or
here
to
we
go
go.
for it. Yeah, here we go. But just remember to make those little plays when you can and coordinate with your team. Because, yes, even though your job is disrupting the lasso, you can still make those aggressive plays. I'm not saying don't ever go for them. I'm just explaining what the job of Vengeful is later on. All right here. You already know what you did, right? I don't have to explain
Oh,
this to you.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
immediately walked up and I was like,
Yeah.
damn, I didn't see any of them
Yep.
on the map, but
Yep.
they're all
But you
here.
still went up into absolutely no vision whatsoever onto their high ground around bounty time when they're all going to be rotating for one or the other, right?
Yeah.
So I think you know exactly what you did.
In my mind, I think I was like, I'm super
not
far
gonna bitch
ahead,
at you.
and they'll probably be going for the bounty, so I can kill him to take the bounty, and then they all went to the bounty, and then it was like, oh,
Right.
well, yeah, they
Right.
can do that.
Yep. It's just begging to die. All right, let's move forward a little bit from this then. Let's go up to like 15 minutes and 20 seconds, I believe. Yeah, it's just just another example of stacking stuns. Is it up here? Oh yeah, it's up here. So again, doesn't really matter, but like going for the crush instead of the just bashing him once he's stunned, it's like, why? You just gotta ask yourself why. I think that's the most important thing. Like, do I need to be doing this? Do I need to be kind of using these spells when I don't have to? The answer most of the time is no, but sometimes if he, like, for example, didn't break it, you're trying to prevent him from using spells, it would definitely be the correct thing to stun him there. So, just keep that in mind. I see a lot of people stacking stuns all the time, and it will lose you kills in the future. I promise. So just kind of be aware of that. All right, positioning. What was your vision? It was this, right? You thought it was like okay to be here with this vision? I don't think you realized that they could like TP into the... You're not smoked right now. This is a bug, by the way. But I don't think you realized that they can TP into this right here. And then it's like, oh man, this is just crazy. I don't know how you didn't get like lich gazed or something. And then the mango tree, it's like, yeah, I get what you were going for, but it just doesn't do anything. I guess you already knew that they were coming. No real reason to put that down. I thought you were the mango tree god, man. Come on. You're better than this. The fucked mango trees. Yeah, right? Exactly. Oh, they fucked mango trees. Oh. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I didn't think I realized they didn't have flying vision anymore.
No, I didn't either.
Sucks.
I didn't know when they changed that.
I don't know. Is there like a standard place you put it? Like I was watching like people play competitively. Like some people
inside
were just,
of trees,
it seemed
I
to be a
guess.
little bit
Yeah, I don't
like
know.
all over the place, but especially when you have cores that benefit from mana.
I think just high
It's like,
ground
I think
at this
Clinks
point. Yeah,
does.
there's no more. Okay, there's no more good spots. It's just a free ward. Yeah, just stick it on the high ground or something, or like in a defensive spot, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even think you used the vision. Like, isn't it just better for the
Just for the
mana?
mangoes?
Like,
Yeah.
if Clinks can just
Yeah.
if Clinks
People
can just like
ran
At this
return
point,
to
yeah.
a safe spot in the jungle
Yeah.
and collect some
Yeah.
mangoes and
Yep.
farm some camps, it seems
Definitely.
better than trying to position it in a
Yeah,
spot where
because it's gonna get
being-
taken down eventually. Like, there's no question about it. It's gonna get taken down. So, yeah. It's still good in your jungle as a free ward if you put it in the trees. Yeah. Okay, so you could do that too. So yeah, Lincoln's
Yeah.
still got a couple of those spots that you can stick it in. Okay, but let's not focus on that too much. Moving forward, 60-40. So this is a really difficult call to make, I think. I know, I remember I was sitting in team chat and Lincoln and you were like, all right, let's go kill people, right? But it doesn't. The problem with just going on your own as two supports, let's go commit a homicide. The problem with going on just the two supports and making a play like this, killing someone, you don't get anything from it. You don't get any more control. You've already got vision down here. You're not going to get this tower out of this because it's two supports. And you're making your other cores vulnerable is the biggest thing. If you're not playing with them, well, then they can get... there's no telling what's going to happen to them, basically. Your job right now is just to babysit them. Your support's early game, right? You got to be making sure that your cores are all having a good game. Clinks is free farming. He has better timings than the Quap right now. He's doing fine. He doesn't need anyone's help. He can silence them if he's in trouble. He's got skeleton walkers, whatever. But going off on this solo expedition is a little bit of a mistake. And it's a hard call to make. Like, do I want to go and get kills and apply pressure, or do I want to sit behind the cores and play a little bit more passively? But I think in 99% of these situations, you want to be playing with your core. And it doesn't have to be not getting kills. You can play with your core and get kills, but going off on your own is almost never going to be the correct decision. Because, again, you want to be getting kills on your cores, right? Cores on you don't matter so much. Like, it's nice having the extra gold and XP, but getting kills on the cores propels them even more than what you can do. So playing around the cores, I think, is going to be the majority of the time the correct decision. There's no real point in making this play on the Lich because you're never going to get anything from it, even if you do get the kill. So the problem now that you're going to experience is now your cores are dying because you're not being able to play around them. Maybe if there's a Venge swap, this is completely different. If Puck is there with all of his skills, maybe you can even turn that if you have the Slaughter there. But now OD just dies. The supports are kind of out in nowhere land. And Lich doesn't even die. You don't get anything out of this rotation. And you blew a smoke for it too. So if you want to make kills happen, just make them happen with your cores. There's no need to be on your own as a support. This is really funny. The Quap just goes full fucking retard mode. Yeah. Just not a whole lot to say there. Just playing like a cocky immortal, basically.
Yeah.
Thinking that he's...
It's the Quap feeling it and no one else on the team having any farm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... But, okay, this is a symptom of higher level players playing with low level people and thinking that they can get away with anything when they can't. It's just a good player making a play that is objectively bad, but he thinks it's good because he can get away with it. And he would in 99% of situations against lower rated players. Maybe they just run away and die, or maybe they just don't do anything or don't go on him. Or maybe there isn't a support sitting behind him. I don't know. But, yeah, no, good job punishing that. Oh, and then the other thing I wanted to touch on about that 17-minute rotation on the Lich is the indecisiveness. You have to be 100% sure what you're doing and who you're going for and communicating with your team. This splitting up and going separate ways and still going on the Lich is 100% a mistake. And so, I mean, that alone totally lost you the kill. But just communicate with each other. Say, no, OD's getting gone on. We gotta go back. Or commit for the Lich anyways. Doesn't matter. But be on the same page with your team. Don't ever make these indecisive plays where it's like, alright, well, we were doing this and we're committing to this, but now I'm not so sure. And so I'm gonna back up. Loses you kills. Yeah, but how does that affect what you're doing top, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You're not going to have any chance of saving him anymore. You're totally out of position for that. So why this hesitation? Why does this hesitation have to go and lose you another kill? It doesn't. But just be on the same page with your team, and that doesn't happen. Alright, okay, 1830. Let's skip forward a little bit. So yeah, it still works out pretty well for you guys, because these guys are just playing terribly, but it's like, against better teams, this won't happen. These games won't feel as easy when they're not just doing silly things. Alright, so right here, I think, was the call to pressure this tower, right? And when that happens, you got to be playing with your team no matter what. There's no reason to be dewarding. You can do that afterwards. If they're going for an objective, I think this was an issue in one of the first games, actually, that I watched from you guys, is people split up and make good plays, pressuring an objective when they can, when the Lich is down, and you're going to force rotations while you guys are super strong. You've got Blink, Echo on Slardar, like, you've got Aether Lens on OD, you've got all of your spells. You're super strong, and you can fight, but you can't fight if you're all split up. And doing this, making these rotations into the jungle, when your team's calling to pressure mid tower, it can be game losing. Sometimes. Not in this game, obviously. But giving up kills to people like this is how they get back into the game. Like the Pangolier, for example, gets a ton out of this. The Bat Rider, too. They're all starting to get a little bit more golden experience now because you weren't with your team. Quap still dies, like obviously this is still fine for you guys because you still get stuff out of it, but this could have been like everything for you, nothing for them kind of situation rather than what it was. So just when there's a call, go with your team. Don't be trying to play on your own, especially as a support, because your most important job always as a support is going to be playing around your course. Alright, so 1930. Oh yeah, skill usage on the Lifestealer, I think, because you're definitely in range of it a couple of times. And if you swap him back, I'm sure he dies there. But I mean, it's just you just gotta know it, and you just gotta remember to kind of prioritize keeping those heroes around skills like Burning Army. Little stuff. But it was a good call afterwards to go on this Bat Rider, understanding that you pressured out the Lifestealer and he's going to be alone. Great. That's fantastic. The Pangolier went full freaking retard and just walked in and got bashed up and died. And now everyone, I think, is going to be just getting forced out of the lane, and they're going to lose the 2-1 tower. Awesome. 20 minutes, though. Just remember to time those bounty runes. Don't forget about those just because you're getting kills and things. OD maybe could go bottom. But, you know, minor stuff. And then, alright, 2310 is the next little thing. I just wanted to commend you guys on this. I think this is really great. Going for a kill, swap out. You get a couple of kills on the Bat Rider, particularly, and the Lich, and the Pango, and the Quap. These are all heroes that can contest Roche, right? It's a great understanding to finally be like, okay, we've killed all of these heroes who can Roche contest. Take the outpost, go for Roche. Perfect. Well done. Great rotation. You got an objective out of those 4 kills. Doesn't have to be a tier 2 tower, right? You don't have to pressure the towers, but you get the Roche. That's an objective. That's an extremely important objective. And it was just a really good call. And god damn, that dies fast. I think everyone even noticed it too. Like the Death Soul, Slardar, and the Venge. Oh my god, you take Roche so quickly. There's nothing you can even do against that. Now 2340, just a little thing from the puck. Placing a ward down here. There's no reason for it whatsoever. You already took Roche. Your objectives are gone here. Start working on the other parts of the map. Getting down aggressive vision. Kind of focusing on your next. What are we going to do? This doesn't do anything. You don't even need it defensively. You've already got this one, right? But if you guys are playing around these wards and kind of posturing a little bit more aggressively rather than this right here, I think that could open up some potential for either a team fight or kills or what have you. But yeah, play around your wards. Make sure that when you have these deep ones and you see a couple of people here and one person up here and Quap in the mid lane, go on them. Go kill them. They're free kills. But yeah, just it's important to play around your vision. Just remember that. And then remember what kind of vision you need for the situation. A Roche ward right now isn't important. That's all I wanted to say. Let's move forward. I think you guys pretty much run them over until 28 minutes. Yeah, that was kind of a mistake, but that's whatever. That's a jungle ward, boy. You don't need a jungle ward, boy. You need a jungle ward in their jungle. Yeah, 28 minutes. Because they're just dying right now. There's nothing they can do. Quap is useless after she dies a couple of times. You can't snowball anymore. Everyone's just getting one-tapped by Urgent. He's popping off, like... Yeah, oh man, Urgent was just an absolute monster this game. Clinks too, but holy crap, Urgent was just on his shit. Yeah, and I like the item build here too, just rushing the Ags, because you got the Lifestealer and the Quap and the Pango. It's just too good not to. You got your Blink Initiation already, you don't need any more. Great. I like the itemization here, a little bit of negative armor, synergize as well. The Orchid for like the Quap and everyone else. I think that's fine. I think this particular build on the Clinks really works well too with the Burning Army. A lot of people still go Ags and I think they're idiots. But no, the physical damage build is definitely the way to go now. Because they take advantage of a percentage of all your damage rather than just base damage now. Yeah, let me see. 28 movements. Great movements for towers. Yeah, getting this, understanding that you guys need to play as a team right now. You can take any team fight that you want. It's fine. And then just nuking down the tower. Fine. That's great. You can take free objectives right now. That's awesome that you guys are understanding that. I mean, there's no way they go on you, even if the Clinks is like a 10th of his HP, because he has Aegis. So, fantastic. Yeah, and then I'll teach you the little tricks with efficiency for Clinks after this. 29:49 is when Clinks went bottom. Let's see. And everyone else was playing top. So right here, I think you got Yulesed up. You understand that the Quap has Yules, right? There's no way you're killing her now. It's just, you can't kill her. You only have an Orchid. If you had a Nullifier, sure. But with this current kit, your job isn't to hunt the Quap anymore. It's to take towers and win team fights. Losing this tier 2 is super unimportant. You guys have Glyph, you guys have a full HP tier 2. A Quap will never threaten your base solo harder than you can theirs. So I think in this particular moment, you really needed to be with your team around this time, playing with them, and not putting yourself in a more vulnerable position, or just in a position where you're not really doing anything. This tower isn't important. You have a Glyph for it. Again, like, just rotate up top and stop trying to hunt the Quap, who you're never going to kill with the Yules.
I think my thought process for this was, it was partly about like forcing the Quap out, but it was also securing the outpost for the 30-minute mark, because I saw that the rest of their team was top, and it was just the Quap.
Yeah.
I kind of knew that the Quap couldn't like kill me, but I could kill her if she like let me and didn't fuck up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's like you can't rely on. You can't rely on. Okay, so A, you can't rely on fuck ups. B, you already had both outposts, and denying the experience is not as important as getting it yourself. So it's not like you were in a position where you needed that one outpost. It doesn't really matter one way or another if they get an extra 700 experience or whatever it is. I don't even think it's that much anymore. But being able to pressure this with your team is, I think, is much more important than playing bottom lane at 30 minutes right now. Was all that I was trying to say. Because, yeah, as soon as you see that Yule's on Quap and you have that understanding, like, alright, I'm never going to get a kill on her. I should be with my team. If you were here with Burning Army, could you imagine? Like, everyone just dies. There's no way for them to even play. Everyone just dies if you have Burning Army up on here. But, yeah, no, the coil was dank. That was an awesome 4-man coil. But if you were here, everyone dies instead of getting away. And that kind of thing can make a huge difference in more high-skilled games where the enemy actually takes advantage of space rather than just overextending and feeding kills. So that's just an example of why you should be playing with your team, though. It doesn't matter. There's no real big difference in the outcome of the game, but around when you've got like this posture, this position to really win a game, you got to be playing as 5. There's no reason not to.
I think that's my bad. I think I made the call to protect the outpost against the Quap, if I remember.
Okay. So yeah, great coil, but I think they all would have died if the Clinks was just there. Unfortunately, it wasn't, and so it's like, whatever. Now, 31 minutes in, the same. Yeah, before you say "God damn it, Brandon," I get you're pushing in mid lane, but these are super creeps. What are you doing? You're making the exact same mistake that Brandon just made. You're not playing with your team.
That's a
This
classic
lane's-
Lincoln move.
This lane is going to push in automatically. There's super creeps. There's no way it doesn't. You don't need to be here. There's no objective to push here. You also don't need creeps since you've got a siege creep up here and everything else. Just play with your team. Doesn't matter. What do you mean your coil's not ready? It's 52-second cooldown.
Also, the lifesteal wasn't dead until I like one-shot him.
How can I get a 4-man coil if there's only 3 alive? Yeah. But, yeah, so it's just play with urgent. Just doing urgent things. One-shot and supports. That's the life. So yeah, I mean, again, obviously it didn't matter, but just play with your team. There's no reason to be playing solo like that. And I even wrote it down here. These obviously aren't game-losing mistakes against opponents like this, but against better teams, you 100% will be punished for small things that we're talking about here. So try to avoid that. Try to cut out the whole learning phase where you have to learn from better people who take advantage of you in those situations. Don't let them, or don't let yourselves be put in that situation at all. It'll take you from being where you're at to being top immortal player that much faster if you can just skip that whole learning phase. Alright, so now as far as the little efficiency tips for Clinks go, there's some really cool stuff actually that back when I was a Clinks spammer, I actually invented this. This is not me finding it out from anyone else. This is certified DAV creation. So, as far as Soul Ring goes, if you have treads, you want to use Soul Ring on strength treads. This part I haven't invented. Swapping to int treads using Skeleton Walk. This next part, I did. See what I did? See how I'm invis?
Now I gotta try that myself.
Yeah, it's an awesome trick, right? It's really cool. You can swap the power treads during the fade delay of Skeleton Walk, and I discovered this. Now, the thing about Clinks now is that you might not want to do this. If you, for example, have an Orchid, you do want to do this. But if you don't have an Orchid, if you're playing early game, you actually don't want to swap power treads from int on the fade delay. You want to this, and then just do this. And let me show you particularly why. Because now, once you're ready to attack someone, you instantly have the attack speed from Skeleton Walk, rather than not having it. Although, maybe they changed that, I'm not sure. Did they change that? Where it applies on the first hit? It'll be more apparent with more levels, hang on. No, okay, so it's just the first hit now. So they did change it. It used to be like the first hit came out and it was super slow, but now it's a little bit nicer. So Oh, let me see. So early game, using it on strength treads, swapping to int treads, using skeleton walk, and then swapping to agi when you want to attack something. That'll give you the maximum attack speed. So let's see, 527. Whereas, yeah. Okay, so that's just chalked up to the actual base damage being wonky, but it's about the same now. So it's not as big of a difference, but it's just something you can do. So actually, no, fuck it, never mind. Just totally ignore what I said. Just do this, since you get the same attack speed anyways now. But yeah, swapping your treads during the fade delay, certified DAV invention. And it's just totally efficient. It's completely efficient in every single way that you can. Soul Ring on the strength treads, using a skill on int treads, swapping during the fade delay so that you instantly have that attack damage as soon as you come out of it. And the attack speed for that matter. So really cool trick there. Another thing to do, but it works for, I think, all of your skills. I actually want to check this for Burning Army. If the damage changes 18, 18, 18. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so it doesn't matter too much for Burning Army because it actually changes, yeah, to your current. So that doesn't matter too much. But yeah, nice little efficiency plays. Always using your skills on in treads and then swapping out, so that you get agi during the fade delay. Super useful. It makes a big difference when you're going for kills early on. Obviously. Oh, and then also, you can actually do it so that you're off, if you want, for example, if you feel like you're a little bit too squishy, if you want to have strength treads during a fight, you just swap it off as you come out. So you can actually choose if you want agi or strength here, whereas I even see high-level players fucking it up. When you leave it on the int treads, you'll always come out of it and then have to swap. And then it just takes a little bit, that extra fraction of a second, which can make a difference. Just, yeah, little efficiency play. Just remember that. That's all I wanted to show you. Alright. We're about an hour and a half in. Do you think we have time for this next game, or should we save it for later?
I feel like let me save it for later. I feel like these games are less obviously, like you said, there's things to pick on, but I feel like it's less information as it would have been if it was like a loss. You see what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, definitely.
No, losses are better to analyze.
Which is obviously the grass is always greener. When we were losing all the games, we were like, "Motherfucker, just give us a win." And now it's like, well, shit.
Give us a challenge.
Yeah, but now it's like I actually learn more from this. But.
So, yeah, I think the biggest thing really is we just outdrafted the shit out of them every single game.
Actually, can we touch a little bit on drafting
Absolutely.
offlane heroes? Because I think part of the success this game was our offlane draft was so different for Urjin, and putting him on these active mid-game heroes is really, really good.
Yeah, I wrote down a little note. As far as drafting goes, I'm starting to get a pretty good understanding of everyone's comfy spots. Urjin really needs a playmaker. I think that's what he excels on. These high mobility, these really strong heroes that can frontline and initiate, and just Lincoln needs fuck. It really looks like he shines on these heroes rather than something that's more defensive or passive, like an Underlord, or even like an Abba or Underlord, all these things. Even his Doom was fantastic. I loved watching his Doom, but he was able to kind of get initiations off and frontline and run at people and get off spells, and it works really, really well. So I think as far as Urchin's hero go, we just need to draft playmaking heroes on him and these initiators, because that's what it looks like he's way more comfortable on. As far as mid lane goes, I think we need things that have either strong comeback or mid game impact, because inevitably against these teams we always get the immortals on mid lane, right? It's always the strongest player that's on mid lane, and Brandon is always like, God damn it, I'm getting boned here, guys, help me out.
Yeah, it's Adam.
Oh,
but yeah,
Adam,
yeah.
sorry. Adam, that's right, Brandon's on
Adam is
carry.
poor fucking Adam. So it's just like,
Adam's always against these like immortal 500s or immortal 1000s, and it hurts. So to play around that, Adam's asshole is 6 inches wider than the start of the season. To play around that, you need to pick like mid-game heroes, basically. Ones that can recover in the jungle or dish out a ton of damage if you can just sit behind your team. Things like the Zeus. I mean, he got pretty shafted in a lane that shouldn't have gotten shafted, I think. But the ability to just sit behind the team and come back and farm stacks and things like that was just so well executed. The stacks from Adam were just on point constantly throughout the game. He was always stacking his neutral camps, getting ready to farm them, and it was what allowed him to come back into this game. If you give him something that like just doesn't do that, I think that's where everyone starts to struggle, because then it's like you're trying to make space for him. Even the OD to some extent, it was really, really good that he was able to just get an Aether Lens, and I think the Aether Lens was great this game, but it was great that he was able to get the Aether Lens and then just play around his team, because that's what he needs to do in these situations where it's like, obviously you're going to get last picked, or you're just going to get out-mechanicked by some of these players. And so until you really have the amount of games under your belt to kind of compete with them, you need to figure out how to play around them. And part of that is drafting heroes like a Zeus or a Shadow Fiend or an OD or something like that. Just something that can recover and have mid-game impact and play with the team. Because when you can play with a team, it looks fantastic. I mean, you get all your spells off, you start doing everything correctly, just dishing out ridiculous amounts of damage. And it looks good. It makes up for the laning phase, basically. No, there will not techies with team. God, no, please. But yeah, right now, I feel like these last few games, it's like, yes, we're kind of drafting similarly, like the Vengeful both games, the Puck both games. The differences seems to be in the cores, but it's like, it's nice seeing heroes that you guys are comfortable on and really getting an understanding for the team play. When these heroes change up, or when our drafts start getting a little bit differently, we're going to have to kind of adjust. The nice thing about these two picks, though, is that it just gives you so much, right? It gives you early game nuke and silence. It gives you late game AoE control through BKB, which is absurd. It's part of the reason why Puck's so busted. And then it gives you, like, can't TP cancel with the Vengeful all game long. Gives you save, gives you AoE, combines well with right clickers. I mean, these two support picks really have it all, I think. These are some of the strongest ones you could possibly go for, and there's really no reason not to pick them up every single time if you can. So, as far as drafting goes, I mean, it's just S-tier supports that are getting picked up right now. We could look into picking different things, but it's like, if you guys are comfortable on them and they're getting given away, there's really no reason not to pick them. So I think as far as drafting goes, that should be every game they give me. Fuck. That should be the focal point, is getting these kind of support combinations that can just do a lot. Alright, now let's... Okay, so let's try and go over this as quickly as possible. We can always kind of do this at a later time. And you know what, since we've only got about 15 minutes until 2 hours in, and I don't want to keep you guys too late, I'll go over kind of just the gist of the lanes. As far as bot lane goes, it's not really a kill lane, unless Lich gets way overextended, which he did a lot, and so did Bloodseeker, but remember kind of the efficiency plays, playing from the tree line and kind of being able to trade hits a lot better. It didn't really have the same feel from it this game, and I think it was mainly because you just tried walking at him. If you play more around here and use the trees rather than just coming out of them and being out, this is out of position. basically, is what I want to say. Being outside of these trees gives away your completely gives away your advantage of being able to trade from no vision. So just make sure you're not being put into the spot where you lose half of your HP because you walk like 2 positions out of the way. Yeah, go for it. Yes. Oh, absolutely. The difficulty of this particular lane is you've only got 2 spells to nuke them with, and they're not really mana efficient. Night Stalker has like 4 of them until he's completely out. It's not like an Underlord who can just use his spells on the creep lane and constantly pressure the Bloodseeker, right? In this particular lane, I think the Bloodseeker was a good pick, because you have no chance whatsoever of harassing him out. He's always going to be able to heal up. You're never going to be able to contest his right clicks, basically, because of that Blood Rage. So, yes, the answer is go for the Lich afterwards, because as soon as Lich is gone, and he can't Ice Armor this guy and Frost Blast you, it makes harassing this Bloodseeker a billion times easier. It actually makes it valid. So focus more on harassing the Lich, I would say, in this particular matchup when you have these particular heroes that can't harass the Bloodseeker. If you can harass the Bloodseeker, by all means, go for it. So yeah, awesome spell usage, saving the Illusory Orb to chase with rather than to try and initiate with, gets you a kill. Awesome. It's, again, like I said it with the last time, but it's really nice to see you learning from your mistakes already so quickly. I mean, it's really good. Yep, and again, I think this game actually you also used your spells to secure more range creeps, which is great. And yeah, oh, I wanted to thank Urgent, because yes, in this particular lane, buy a stick as soon as you can. This is another lane, like the Bat Rider, or like anything else that has these spammable skills. Zeus, let's see, Skywrath, like all these heroes that have spammable spells that they need to cast, get a stick as quickly as possible, and you can just completely change a lane, because you just have so much more regen than them. But yeah, just work on being a little bit more in position, behind trees, getting off efficient hits. You don't have to be, again, you don't have to be in these trees necessarily. You can play a little bit more aggressively in this lane, right? You can be in position over here, because you've always got your escape with the Illusory Orb. Other thing that I wasn't seeing a whole lot of was using Phase Shift to just dodge auto attacks and things like that. You're not going to dodge the Frost Blast, and it's like, if he really wants to commit Blood Right on you, you can always Orb away. No, I know you use it. I know you use it, but the thing is you don't use it enough early game. Like, just dodging these projectiles is like a free tango almost. Let's see, where else was it that I saw? Yeah, it's just later on. I mean, you do end up using it, which is great. I especially like that you started saving it for the Blood Right once you started getting that out. But it's just using it early on to get efficient trades with Lich, essentially, is what you need to be trying to do. Because, like, right here, no reason to take that auto attack at all. None whatsoever. Just press your Phase Shift button. It's on a 6-second cooldown, like, you don't have to worry about it. Just trade more efficiently by using your spells. And the other thing, again, I saw you starting to max Illusory Orb over Waning Rift, and it's just, I don't think it's anywhere near as good unless you're like position 2 Puck, basically. It's less efficient, it's the same exact amount of damage, gives you less overall CC in the early game, and I don't ever think of a situation on either like support or offlane Puck where, but you get cooldown reduction on Waning Rift. It's the exact same. It's 1 second less per level. I mean, 13 seconds of Waning Rift isn't as far as an orb for escapes. Dude, you ended up using Waning Rift more than the orb for escapes this game. Like, you would constantly just rift into this area right over here. Yeah, 3 extra seconds on an illusory orb, I don't think is going to make as big of a difference as having more CC, more efficient damage, and I mean, yeah, that's it. I think it's just a way more efficient thing to do rather than, okay, 3 seconds of CD. You can't really justify it with that, honestly, I don't think. Just the Waning Rift is better in these situations. Okay, mid lane. As far as mid lane goes, tiny little things. I think the bottle rush was fine against a countered lane where it's like you should have a free time, but you still need to ferry out a lot of regen. And I see you struggling with that in a lot of your matchups, is that you don't get nearly enough regen coming to you nearly as fast. Little efficiency plays that you can do, bringing your courier out to the edge just so you can get it like 5 seconds sooner. Buying them as soon as you can, and then just ferrying them out immediately. Just, you're in almost every single lane. You are going to need to buy constant regen in order to be competitive against players, especially players who are better than you. Obviously, you don't want to go too far into the territory of, well, now I got all this regen and I don't know what to do with it. I've got too much. You want to focus on items at some point. But as far as this lane where you need to harass out Sniper constantly with spells, buy some mangoes. Just constantly buy mangoes and maybe sit on a salve until you feel comfortable with your ability to just use the bottle regen. Because the bottle should not be what you rely on. It should be basically like, oh, I'm dominating the lane with this, or I'm using it to dominate the lane. I'm getting rune control. I'm able to use it to supplement getting this guy out and taking control. You still need earlier regen. And I think if you were able to spam him out with early regen, you would have. This would have been a way easier lane. There's no reason for him to be having a 2 level advantage against you. So yeah, the bottle rush was fine. More regen. You really need to be buying more regen than you are right now. And then as far as at 5 minutes, I saw a little bit of hesitation where it's like you would pull the camp, look at the lane, and then you kind of walked all the way back to the bounty rune, and then backwards. This will go away as you kind of get a little bit more confident and a lot more games played, but you need to get in the habit of always planning where you're going to be going and where your next rotation is going to be. If at 4 minutes and 45 seconds you're thinking, okay, I got to fill my bottle with a bounty rune, well, now you pull it to the right instead of pulling it to the left and doubling back and wasting time. It makes a difference early on, specifically, because you're missing out on experience because of this. The sniper's getting denies, and he's able to kind of sit in the lane. So, efficiency plays is just another thing I wanted to touch up on. But yeah, just a couple of kills that were given up that shouldn't have happened. And then at 9:30, let's see, the sniper ends up buying these raindrops, and I don't think you ever looked at his inventory because you kept on spamming out lightning bolts on it, and he was like getting full efficiency out of these things instead of if you were just like breaking them with an arc lightning, basically. And then you can even like combo it up, arc lightning into lightning bolt, and you would do like 150-ish more damage. Yeah, right around there. To him if you had just scouted out his items, basically. Keep an eye on your opponent's inventory. It's just something you'll have to get used to. Okay, and then as far as top lane goes, prioritizing range creeps. We talked about it last game. I'm not going to go into depth even more on it. But just make sure that everyone's focusing on the range creeps much more than they are right now. Because I'm not seeing everyone really care about them enough, at least as much as they should. So yeah, I think someone touched up on it. Vengeful might have had a little bit more impact around level 1 period if she had gone for like a wave first instead of stun. Because it didn't really feel like the stun was doing a whole lot, and the right clicks were really your main way of kind of dominating this lane. So yeah, just reconsider. Maybe you just save a point in your skills until you really figure out what it is you need. Regen. The Drow Ranger needed to buy a little bit more regen. unless Zoro just plans on buying it for you and giving it to you, which is totally acceptable. Early game, you really don't need a ton of gold on these supports, especially these non-greedy ones. So it's like buying some mangoes for your core or buying a salve for your core is game winning sometimes, because it's the difference basically. It allows the core to stay in lane where he otherwise might not have. Stop giving range creeps abandonment issues by forgetting about them. Exactly. So yeah. Now, let's see. Oh, I wanted to actually... Okay, so this one I'll rewind a little bit, because I wanted to make a point. So yeah, 440, just being out of position a little bit, allowing the Ava to get right clicks off on you kind of punishes you, especially around that 5-minute mark. Should never be happening. You guys know what to prioritize by now. Getting greedy and being overly aggressive is not what you should be doing around 5 minutes. You should be playing defensively and allowing your support to go out and get the bounty runes or contest them, or pushing out the lane and contesting them with her. Those are your two options. So let's see. 530, good return kill though. Great play from Venge, not taking it. Good job. That's exactly what you got to do. Don't right click it. Let the carry get it and recover. Fantastic. Love that. So skipping forward just a little bit to 7 minutes. So I told you this game that you were going to want to max Frost Arrows, right? I definitely mentioned that before. The third point or fourth point even, like this would even be a lane to max it, honestly. It's just so important against these super squishy heroes with no armor that rely completely on walking away from you. You can kite them much easier, and like I was saying, yes, it feels better to go for the multi-shot maxing, especially when your support is stacking for you, but your first priority should not be AFK farming the jungle. What's your first priority? 100 to 0ing these guys. What do they not have? Or what do they not have any way of dealing with? A 64% slow on them in the laning phase when they're all the way up here. I can't emphasize enough how this is extremely greedy, and you got punished for it, actually. It just straight up punished for it. It's 7 minutes. Yeah, so right here. If you had that extra point in slow, I'm pretty confident this is a double kill. But you went for the extra point in multi-shot, which didn't do anything. Abaddon just shielded and walked away. And now you're in this position where, okay, you're both full health, but the problem with the skill build is they can just walk away with you right now with only 2 points in it. And so because they can actually walk further, you have to commit further. You get underneath the tower now. Now it's starting to get dangerous. He's able to bait you under and get tower shots off on you, and you go down. If you had 3 points in Frost Arrows, that doesn't happen. If you had maxed it, understood what their goal is, how they get away from you in lane, understood your skill build, you could have gotten a double kill. Easy. But it's just, you get punished for not maxing your Frost Arrows in a lane that you need to. Abba needs to be on top of you to do anything. Skywrath needs to get away from you to do anything, to kite you around. This particular build allows them to do that. If you max out your Frost Arrows, it doesn't allow them to do that. You can just walk all over them, and this lane is completely unwinnable for either of them. So, again, just really reconsider your build. Yes, it's a little bit greedier. Yes, it feels good when you're taking stacks with this maxed out multi-shot, but it really doesn't make that big of a difference early game to have those extra points in it, whereas Frost Arrows does. And it's like, even going for the point in Gust, like, I would have loved to see like a 3-1-2 or like 4-1-1 or something like that, just because you don't need to farm these camps when you're just getting constant kills on people. But now they can sit in the lane, and so it's a lot harder. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. All this difficulty in this lane was because of improper skilling. That was almost entirely it. So yeah, stacking from the Venge this game, not leeching too much experience. I wanted to touch up on that. This is perfect. You're level 4, he's level 6. Fantastic. I would be loving life if I was your carry right now. You're making stacks, you're being efficient, you're not leeching this experience underneath, because Drow gets levels, you kill people. You get levels, you get plus 3 damage and 25 range. Not a big difference. So yeah, perfect. This is a prime example of what you want to be doing on a support, basically. This is efficient play. This is great. I loved seeing this game. Alright, 10 minutes, everyone was on point with the bounty rotations. Vision told you they weren't going to contest, so awesome job. Like, you had a ward, I think, right here. So, you kind of scouted out the ABBA, you saw the Skywrath never came back. So, it just kind of gave you free reign to run for them, basically. Awesome. Great. Bottom lane 2, I think you guys got this. Denied the experience. Sweet rotation. I mean, this is just sexy rotations.
We got everything at 10 minutes. Jesus.
Yeah.
We got
No.
4 runes in the outpost.
Look at the difference, though. Remember the difference between this and what you guys were playing like. Where it's like, bounty runes and outposts would be like thought of 2 minutes later or something. This is so much cleaner. You guys are playing so much better. It's wonderful to see. And this starts the snowball, right? You guys are just getting further and further ahead because of this. In levels, in gold, in everything. Because of these early rotations that are correct, that you're doing right. So, great job. Yeah, we're going to skip forward a little bit. I would have liked to see a little bit earlier of a rotation from Zeus, but I think kind of recovering in the jungle is very important. So, this is also acceptable. Your lanes are going pretty fine, actually. Like, neither of them are being pressured, and actually, they're probably going good, so take care of yourself first, baby. Treat yourself. And then good rotation with the haste rune. Awesome. Yeah, this is what you need to do. I think this would have been a lot easier for you had the early game, the early levels and lane gone a little bit better. But, I mean, it'll get easier as you play games, I promise you. You just gotta play a lot more games, or as many games as this guy on the sniper has. So yeah, let's skip forward. There wasn't a whole lot. I mean, you guys are just running them over at this point now. 15 minutes, everyone rotates for the bounty runes. Very nice. Rotations from Zeus. Cool. Sitting behind the Night Stalker. This is fine. I think maybe committing a little bit deep now, but I also think this is fine. You got to kill on the sniper, which is pretty worth. Well, I mean, worth for you, not really worth for if you consider the Skywrath. Now he goes down solo to Lincoln. Sick. Can't believe this wasn't punished. I mean, this is just the Bloodseeker being fucking stupid. Oh my god. I don't know. Maybe you get away there actually. I don't know. Maybe the attack speed from bonus was too much. It was really deep, but it's like, I mean, Night Stalker was low, Zeus was dead, Drow and Venge were doing their own thing. Yeah, they don't have vision, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, they have vision of you, and I think that's the most important part. I think Venge was playing in mid lane, and Drow is just up top. There's no way Drow rotates this early. Although, so, something about the Drow. At this point, once you've taken this tower, and you've got this early of a Hurricane Pike, I would have liked to see you do more with your team at this point. Because I think you could have just ran them over as 5, and there's nothing they could do about it. The excess farming is fine. It kind of cements you into position, but you also have to realize that in different games, you're going to be up against people who gank you, and who take advantage of you playing alone at this time. Yes, it's hard to kill you, like you've got a Hurricane Pike, obviously, but you gotta ask yourself what's too greedy, and at what point can we just run people over? And I think right about now is the point where you can just run people over. But, I mean, that's retrospective. They're doing pretty fine without you. Yeah, and then moving forward to 20 minutes. This is fine. Yeah, he's just super out of position with no health. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's just playing super tilted, I guess. Oh, yes, it was the Lincoln play. The Lincoln play on Puck right over here. You'll see, you'll see, you'll see. Alright, so A, bounty runes, right? Everyone kind of forgot about them. There was like the kill here, which is fine, but then get back and go for it. No, this isn't going to be good for you. You are totally right. So Zeus is going on this guy, which is fine. He kind of chanced him. Maybe this works out if the Abba isn't here. Maybe it doesn't. This! Alright, what have we said about running up onto the high ground with absolutely no vision? Right? It never, ever, 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 ever ends well for anyone, no matter how far ahead you are. We saw the Clinks do it over here, and we saw you do it this time. It's just asking to die every single time you do it. Just stop yourself. If you're trying to go high ground with no vision, stop yourself and ask yourself, is it really worth it right now? The answer is no, 90% of the time. Okay. So, around 20 minutes. Now, this is where the AFK farming is getting a little bit excessive. You've got a Yasha, you've got a Hurricane Pike. Like, I don't think anyone can really contest you. Like, I get it, you're trying to go for the Manta style just for, like, the silence or something like that. But, I mean, you should be pushing. There's no reason for this tower to still be up. This mid T1 should be pushed down with Drow, 100%. Especially with the catapult wave coming in. Like, don't just be in the jungle around this time. Make plays with your team, especially when they're all like posturing over here. So let's see. Oh yeah, another thing. If you are AFK farming the jungle, use your skills. I saw you on like full mana for and multi-shot was on cooldown for like all of these jungle camps. You did like 3 rotations around and never once used multi-shot. You got to be taking advantage of your passive regen. It's just it's another efficiency play. If your mana is full, then obviously you're not taking advantage of something. And that something is passive regen right here. It's just free spells right now that you're using when your mana is full. This is just completely free. You're going to have full mana for the next team fight no matter what. You just got to remember to use them for it. Like, it's one thing if you're conserving a certain amount or you're doing something important with your spells, but almost nobody should just be sitting on full mana. You should always be using it and taking advantage of this. Because, again, free spells, they're the best. So this is fine. Good going on them, getting a bunch of kills. You guys are playing as 4. Drow's kind of pushing top, which is good. I think the sniper actually tries to contest you and just dies hilariously. Let me see. Is it right around here or is it later? I think it might be around like 25 minutes or something. Yeah. So yeah, just remember to use your spells, and this is the same on almost all heroes. Like, everyone's gonna have a way to accelerate their farming a little bit better than just right-clicking stuff. Drow is certainly no exception. Oh, so right here. Yeah. Hang on. I remember you got all mad. Oh, I was saving my swap for the BKB. He doesn't have his BKB. You had no idea he had his BKB up until then. You definitely could have swapped him out. And it would have been a kill. But, doesn't matter. I just thought it was really silly, because I remember there's like a big deal made of it. Like, oh, I was saving my swap for BKB TP, and like Lincoln was going off, and I just thought it was funny. Like, there's no way you knew he had a BKB at the time, man. There's no way. It just came. Oh yeah, and this is funny. I want everyone to see this. This is hilarious. Sniper just walks up like, 2 hits and he's gone. Like, that gives you an idea of how far ahead you are right now, right? Your carry's just two-shotting their mid. Like, pressure this. This is when everyone needs to, like, this is the point of no return. You need to be playing as 5 people at this point. Like, you know you're strong. You've all got ridiculous items, and like, everyone's just hilariously far ahead now. Just walk as 5 and run down everything that you can. Let's see, 26 minutes. I think they get baited into a fight. Oh, I wanted to touch up something on the positioning of the fight. I think that happens over here. Yeah. Okay, so it's going to happen over here. This is like the first time where it's like they just get absolutely deleted. And it's good. Everyone uses their spells perfectly. I think it could have happened like a second or so sooner. Hang on. I want to see what you guys all saw. Let's slow this down too. Alright. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was fine. You pressed your phase... Or, I'm sorry, phase shift. That's good. Cancel that one a little bit early, though. Okay, so now... Obviously, all of them are on the low ground now. This is the time to go, right? But... what I would have liked to see... is as soon as they start filtering out right here, this is when Zeus should dump all of his spells, and, I mean, dodge the Lich Ult, obviously, but everyone should start dumping all their spells at this moment. This is when you turn around and coil them, like, on 3 on this high ground, because you have vision of all this, right? This is where you turn around, coil them all in front of their T3, and just wipe every single one of them. No, you're not. You just turn around and click. You were just too focused on the phase shift. You were right there. You were definitely in range. You even had the cast range talent. 200, that's huge. Hang on. What's, Yeah, you could do it all the way over to here. But it was just waiting like 1 second too long, is what I was trying to say. When they're all filtering out in front of this tier 3, and they don't have anything, that's when you guys should be going on them. This is obviously way too far, but a better team would never overextend this far into you. There's no way they do. So yeah, I mean, it's good that you guys went on them now, but you could have done it a little bit sooner, and I think everything would have been a little bit more easily executed. Because as soon as you... Nice. Yeah, nice. I said that, but that was the nice one. As soon as you see them in front of their T3, they're out of position. That's when you go on them. Watch the fight in regular time? Yeah, sure. So you're fighting, Apple pops ulti, and right about now, this is when I would have gone. Pop all your spells, they all get coiled as 3 right up there, Zeus dumps everything, they all melt. They did anyways, but maybe you save the puck, maybe you get up all your skills, maybe this is the difference maker in an actual game where it's like they're being competitive against you guys. But as soon it's just small things like recognizing when they're out of position. As soon as they leave this T3, as soon as they get in front of it, they're out of position. That's when you go. That's how you initiate on them in this particular instance. It's going to change, obviously, from game to game, but everyone needs to be aware of that and kind of have that understanding. Because I think it was like 2 or 3 seconds too late where you just let them walk out here, and that will never happen with good teams. But taking advantage of this, they're still on their high ground. This will happen where they kind of sit and throw out spells from their high ground, but you can go on that. That's what you should be looking for. Great save. Yeah, I think everything else was pretty straightforward. Whoops, dropped my heater. Yeah, 28 minutes is the next thing. You guys just... Okay, yeah. So, the DD on Drow, you guys ended up taking Roche eventually, but it's just... I want to nip this in the bud rather than letting it grow out. I want to get rid of all this hesitation. This... Like, right now, as soon as you see a DD on Drow Ranger, everyone's over here in position. Boom, Roshan. It's great. Venge was pinging it out, right? everyone should start heading there immediately. I don't want to see any kind of hesitation, like going the opposite direction or trying to farm creeps or things like that. This will lose you games. If this is an Earthshaker instead of a Skywrath Mage, for example, and he has a Blink, or an Elder Titan or something, this movement will lose you games where you're going down here instead of straight to Roche. I want to totally eliminate. Yes, I understand you're going for the butterfly, but you can get your courier to do that. And this is the time where you should be taking an objective. I want to totally get rid of this indecisiveness. It's going to take a lot of work from everyone, but this is something everyone needs to focus on. Eliminating that, oh, I don't know what I should do. If a call's made, do it. Just go for it right away. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but everyone needs to commit to the call. And Roche right there could have been done like 20 seconds sooner rather than when they're all up. Good teams will take advantage of you being delayed every single time. Bad ones aren't going to do anything. This is just running over a bad team right now. I'm trying to fix this for the future, for when you're against good teams. Because if this was something that could contest Roche, you can't take it now, once he's up. If you dilly-dally and walk around down here for 20 seconds instead of taking it immediately, be decisive with your movements. Always know what you're going for. As soon as you see that DD, Roche. That should be in your mind, and that should be your first priority. Just go do it. That could have definitely been done quicker and cleaner. And then you would have had the DD to farm up straight down mid. Push down that, which would have been nice. But, yeah, it doesn't really change anything in this game. Again, a lot of what I'm saying will not have any effect on these games. They're going to have an effect when you're against an all-immortal team, or an all-divine team, or people who just outclass you. If you can make better team movements, and you know what you're doing, and you execute cleaner than you should be, you'll win games that you shouldn't win. I promise. But it all comes down to these little tiny things that you might not think are big, but they are. So, 30 minutes this initiation, like, I get it works, but I still wasn't a super huge fan of it. I would have liked to see, because it's like, you have Blink Coil on the puck. I would have liked to see an initiation with the puck first, and then follow up from the Venge. But it just comes down to basically things like knowing what your job is. I think if Venge knew, like, okay, yeah, I can initiate and take someone out of position, but is it going to do as much as swapping someone out of coil? Understanding the answer is probably no would have maybe saved you a kill and just made things a little bit cleaner. Granted, it, again, doesn't matter in the slightest because you just run them over anyways. But you want to correct these problems, these mistakes, before they lose you a game. And that's one of them. Everyone here knows their job. Puck has a blink. His job is to be your initiation. Night Stalker's running in. Yours is to either save people or swap them out of coil. And get off your stun, get off your wave, get off all the skills that you possibly can. That's your job as a Venge. It doesn't matter if you live or die, but you want to make sure that you get everything off before dying, preferably. And you didn't do it because you were the one to initiate rather than Lincoln. Which, I mean, again, doesn't matter here in this particular instance. It will matter later, I promise. So make sure that you are all focusing on what your job is rather than, oh, I see an opportunity, let's do that, if it isn't your job to do. Alright.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, that's pretty much it. I mean, all things considered, I would say you guys did really well. Very good rotations, very good pressure, just some super obvious improvement being made by everyone. But again, there's always these little things that we got to focus on. If you want to get better, if you want to get competitive, if you want to start beating all immortal stacks, these are the things you need to focus on. These tiny little things that they will do better than you right now, but you can either match them or do it better than them if we start focusing on it now. So I don't want to sound like I'm being too nitpicky. I don't want to sound like I'm really making a mountain out of a molehill. But the fact of the matter is that better teams will be doing the things that you're not doing right now. And you need to learn how to do them, and you need to make sure that even in these easy games, you're executing them cleanly and at the same that you would if you were against an all-immortal team, basically. Alright? And with that, I think we're just barely like 15 minutes over 2 hours. Does anyone have any more questions?
No, I'm good.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything. It was pretty helpful.
Cool. Alright.
Mhm.
Yeah, again, I'm always available, and I'll always be here for you guys if something does pop up or if you have a question, if you want any kind of advice or anything like that. But yeah, I think that concludes it for tonight.
Sounds good. Thank you.
My pleasure, guys. And thank you very much for joining in today.
Mhm.
Now, if the Super Bowl's still on, go watch that and spend some time with your families. Be a normal normie.
Yeah.
I'm hopping in the game.
Also, if you have